Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're doing something just a little bit different. I had the recent idea to look at some bad iPhone reviews, and we're not talking any bad iPhone reviews, but the original iPhone, and some of the worst, most awful takes you will ever read about any piece of technology. Some of these are hilarious, and I thought, hey, I need some content. I mean, I really like entertaining you, the viewer, so we're gonna do it today. So most of these I found off of this 2016 article from BGR. You've probably heard of BGR. They're very big and very well known for writing just really very good articles, such as "These beetles survive being eaten by forcing their predator to poop." Kind of want to read that. I'm gonna have to save that one for later. We won't read entire articles, but just go over some of the more poorly aged ones and just pieces from them. Also, before we get into this, I'd like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I'll have the full ad spot a little bit later, but if you're interested in Skillshare and would like to actually learn something during all this quarantine madness, the first 1,000 people to use the top link in the description below will get 2 free premium months of Skillshare, so that's a steal of a deal. Go for it. Helps me out, helps the channel out, and there's a lot of useful things you can learn on there. Oh, you should also join the Discord. I'm on here and there, and you can follow me on Twitter at 91_tech for great tweets such as this and this. I'm very funny, trust me. As well as Instagram for beautiful shots like this and this. Please go follow me at 91_tech, please. Okay, enough stalling, let's just get into this. So we'll start with probably the most iconic, terrible take from the first iPhone, and it comes from the CEO of Microsoft at the time, Steve Ballmer. I'll let him speak for himself.
Steve Jobs goes to Macworld and he pulls out this iPhone. What was your first reaction when you saw that?
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard.
Wow, okay, yeah, this was a really common sentiment back in the day when it came to iPhone reviews, and I kind of get it. It seemed weird back then to type on a digital keyboard, but it just made practical sense. I don't know how people didn't see that earlier, because you had all that space being taken up by the keyboard that you didn't need if it was a digital keyboard. It would be part of the screen, which meant a bigger screen on the same size device. It's just, it feels like common sense now, but again, things were a lot different 13 years ago. $500 was a lot for a phone back then, I'll admit that, but it still was a pretty bad take.
And it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine.
Well, you heard it here, folks. iPhone confirmed to be not a very good email machine. Not sure how Apple will ever recover.
How do you compete with that, though? He sucked out a lot of the spotlight.
That reaction, though, it's like, how do you compete with that? He's just like, what? What do you say to me?
Right now, we're selling millions and millions and millions of phones a year. Apple is selling 0 phones a year. In 6 months, they'll have the most expensive phone by far ever in the marketplace. And let's see, what's the expression? Let's see how the competition goes.
That is just the dumbest way at looking at competition ever. We've sold millions of phones and they've sold 0. That's like Xbox saying, hey, we're not going to make a new Xbox this year. I know Sony is, but we're not going to. And we're not concerned because we've sold millions of Xbox Ones and Sony's sold 0 PS5s. So clearly we're doing well. But we'll see how it goes. Believe it or not, Ballmer actually remained CEO up until 2014 when he retired. Windows Phone retired pretty shortly after. But yeah, for all the good Ballmer must have done for Microsoft, I mean, he was CEO for 14 years, this take was not one of them. How about The Guardian's take on it? The Guardian, it's a huge media company. I'm sure they're quite reasonable. First, before we get into it though, can we talk about how terrible this landing page is? Like, when a third of the screen is taken up by some dumb privacy statement, it really isn't enticing for me to want to read the article. But whatever, let's read iPhone set to struggle. Apple's much anticipated iPhone, which goes on sale in the US today, will struggle to break into the mainstream because of a lack of 3G connection and low demand for converged devices, according to research. Okay, so right off the bat here, lack of 3G was a pretty big issue, and it's one that Apple fixed the next year with the iPhone 3G. The low demand for converged devices, or in other words, combined devices, as it says later, phone, music, video player with web and email capabilities. They say that there's no demand for this, but I feel like that's not true. People often don't know what they want until they see it. The iPad is a good example of this. It's something that hadn't really been much of a thing before, but people watched the commercials on TV and said, hey, I want that. And as a result, it did really well. So this is kind of just a dumb take, which I guess goes for all of these. That's the whole point of this video. In the US, 60% of mobile phone users already own 3 or more specialist devices as digital cameras, MP3 players, and portable media devices. Yes, but how much more convenient would it be if you could have all of that in one pocket? Just because they already own all of those devices doesn't mean that they wouldn't want to simplify. Again, just really close-minded look at things. The rest of the article is pretty standard. They talk a little bit more about how the lack of 3G would hurt things, which it did, and how convergence in the market was pretty pointless. The simple truth, convergence is a compromise driven by financial limitations, not aspiration. Okay. In the markets where multiple devices are affordable, the vast majority would prefer that to one device fits all. Again, I disagree with that. I think that the iPhone made a lot of sense, and of course, it was brand new, so it's hard to completely judge. And overall, although the title is extremely clickbaity, this isn't the worst article, just a little bit close-minded. How about TechCrunch? I'm sure they had a very reasonable take. Here we are, TechCrunch, the futurist. We predict the iPhone will bomb. Wow, the futurist, eh? Until June 29, it's hard to tell too much about the iPhone, but I can tell you with near certainty one thing: the product was almost certainly rushed to market before Apple's engineers would have liked. Now, this is actually kind of true. Steve Jobs had multiple iPhones on stage that he had to keep swapping through to do certain things. So he's not completely wrong, but this fact wouldn't have been known back then, so he was kind of just guessing. So they set the release date as June 29, a Friday, and the last weekday of the month. This, coupled with the fact that Apple has never in recent memory released a product on a Friday, should make everyone say, okay, so why on earth does it matter that it's a Friday? Just because it's a little bit different. I mean, the iPhone was a little bit different. It was a whole new product. It releasing on a Friday is a very, very dumb reason to think it's gonna fail. Cracked screen. So they're thinking that the screen would crack, and that was very true. In fact, the first iPhone has a lot of problems with dead pixels as well, so they're not wrong. The keyboard, again, we see the whole keyboard issue presented. Worst software idea ever. Expect there to be absolutely zero demand for a boot camp mobile, which would let insane iPhone users load up Windows Mobile on their iPhone. Please don't do it, Apple. I don't know why they brought this up. Was this something people were thinking would happen? Because that is very un-Apple-like, but I guess boot camp was a thing back then, so, and a relatively new thing at that. I guess it wasn't completely out of the realm of possibility if iOS was a flop, or back then iPhone OS. And now for the number one prediction about problems that'll plague the first run of iPhones: battery life. Yeah, you're not wrong, but at the same time, these are very nitpicky things. All of this isn't really reasons the iPhone will bomb. They're just reasons you think that the iPhone isn't going to be great. But you're not talking about the fact that it's still a fantastic device compared to everything else that was on the market. All you mention about the touchscreen is at the cracked screens part, where you say that it's gonna crack. Also, this line's pretty good. And as anybody who has ever tossed a Wiimote knows, glass breaks. Okay, that's pretty good. But still, this was just not a very good look at it, and it's for clicks. That's what it was for. And a lot of articles are like that, but it's still just amusing how poorly some of these have aged. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm on AdAge, and they want me to get rid of my ad blocker. Okay, I got rid of the ad blocker, and now we have ads, yay. I hope you're happy, AdAge. I'm making you money. Why the iPhone will fail. Convergence devices have a frequent history of failure. In the gold rush of 1840, what? We're talking about the gold rush? Okay, let's skip through this here. Okay, they're talking about an acid test. What the heck does that have to do with the iPhone? Alright, prediction number one, the iPhone will be a major disappointment. The hype has been enormous. Apple says its iPhone is literally 5 years ahead of any other mobile phone, and that's completely true. The iPhone has the potential to be even bigger than the iPod. Well, he was right, that stock market analyst. I think not. The iPod is a divergence device, and iPhone is a convergence device. There's a big difference between the two. You're right, but aren't convergence devices better because then you have everything on one platform? Alright, skipping through a little bit here. When the cell phone was first introduced, it was called a car phone because it was too big and heavy to lug around. You might have thought it would eventually converge with the automobile. It did not. Instead, it diverged, and today we have many types of cell phones. Okay, this is a really poor example because cell phones, it makes sense that you would use it anywhere. So that's just how it had to be. It didn't need to converge with the automobile. It's just a really dumb look at things. Every Best Buy and Circuit Circuit City is filled with a host of other divergence devices that have been enormously successful. The digital camera, the plasma TV, the wireless email device, the personal video recorder, the GPS navigation device. Okay, TV, really? You're putting TV in the same camp as digital camera and wireless email device? In the very least, the digital camera and wireless email device could be combined here. Wouldn't that be better? Prediction number 2, the media will blame the execution, not the concept. Suppose the iPhone is a major disappointment. Will another convergence failure convince the high-tech industry of its folly? Highly unlikely. Once a concept like convergence grips the imagination, it seldom dies. This is such a stupid look at things. Innovation is dumb because what we have is fine. That's essentially what this is saying. Like, nothing like this had ever been done, and no one's talking about the touchscreen too. What's with that? That was a really mind-blowing thing back in 2007. Heck, it was a mind-blowing thing to me back in like 2012, 2011 when I got my first smartphone. Something I could touch and everything moved on screen? Are you kidding me? These people are, while they're looking for clicks, how they get these tech journalist jobs will never be clear to me. Okay, this is a Blogspot article. Apple iPhone debut to flop, product to crash in flames. The iPhone is going to fail because its design is fundamentally flawed. The designers and technophiles who encourage development of the iPhone have fallen into the trap of all overreaching hardware and software designers, thinking that their users are like themselves. As I wrote in my own book, you should go buy it by the way, your user is not you. The iPhone's designers have forgotten this fundamental law of the universe. The market will severely punish them for doing so. Okay, you're right, the user is not you, which is why the iPhone was designed to be really simple. It had a simple grid layout. It was not complicated. I have 3 specific reasons why the iPhone's design will cause it to crash in flames the way Apple's late and unlimited Newton did. Okay, bringing the Newton into it. They didn't have jobs at that point, so only much more loudly and publicly because of all the hype it's gotten. First, the iPhone ignores the main reason that the iPod succeeded: simplicity and ease of use. He keeps saying this, but he's not describing why it's not easy to use. Second, the iPhone crams too many functions in a single box. Yes, having too many features is a bad thing, and it can be. If you look at Samsung's, they're often bloated with just way too many options, but the iPhone wasn't. It was fairly simplistic. It just was capable of doing all the things you would need multiple devices for. Third, and this is the best one, users will detest the touchscreen interface due to its lack of tactile feedback. Using a thumb keyboard, as on the very popular Trio phone, allows the users to feel the keys and know subconsciously that he's about to press this one and not the one next to it. A touchscreen doesn't allow that, so the user will have to be looking at the keyboard at all times while using it. Okay, so with a physical keyboard, how do you know that you're hitting the correct key? Sure, you can feel the key, but how do you know that that one's, say, the A? How do you know? Maybe it's not. But you do know because muscle memory. This guy is completely not taking into account that humans are smart. Maybe not intentionally, but the subconscious is at least. And before you know it, you're going to be texting really quickly, not even having to look at the keyboard because you're just used to doing it. It's the same reason we can type on a computer at 100 words per minute or whatever and have no problem with it. He says some other dumb stuff, but honestly, that's probably enough from this guy. Big yikes. That's all I can say. Big yikes. So there's no article for this, but it's a guy from Bloomberg, Matthew Lin. The big competitors in the mobile phone industry, such as Nokia and Motorola Inc., won't be whispering nervously into their clamshells over a new threat to their business. The iPhone is nothing more than a luxury bauble that will appeal to a few gadget freaks. In terms of its impact on the industry, the iPhone is less relevant. Man, how are people so dumb? Apple was a big company at this point. Them making a phone was enough for there to be at least moderate success. Clearly, being a big company doesn't mean everything. I mean, look at the Zune. It flopped despite it being from Microsoft, but still, saying that it's only going to appeal to a few gadget freaks is just really, really dumb and close-minded. John C. Dvorak, I don't know who this is, but it's on a website called MarketWatch. Apple should pull the plug on the iPhone. Right, because when you fail, just give up. And the iPhone didn't even fail, so he starts off by saying that the only reason the iPod really succeeded is because it was marketed well. That's really dumb. It succeeded because it was a very slick device, which has to do with marketing, and Apple did advertise it a lot, but it was also a completely new way of listening to music with the scroll wheel, and it had software to go with it in iTunes. It was a very new concept, even though MP3 players were already a thing. And he even says it, they were cheap junk. So clearly, the reason the iPod did well was not just because it advertised on TV, on billboards, and on the internet. Come on, man. There is no likelihood that Apple can be successful in a business this competitive. What Apple risks here is its reputation as a hot company that can do no wrong. If it's smart, it will call the iPhone a reference design and pass it to some suckers to build with someone else's marketing budget. Then it can wash its hand of any marketplace failures. See, they kind of tried this this with the Motorola iTunes phone, and that was a disaster. Motorola just completely screwed that device up, and Steve Jobs was visibly unhappy about it when he was presenting it. But yeah, this is just a terrible take, again, saying that Apple has no chance at it. No chance. People love to deal with definitives, and the problem with that is you better be right, because otherwise you'll look like an idiot like this guy. 5 reasons not to buy an iPhone from the street. Okay, this one line here. Apple's new device is nifty, but it's hardly revolutionary. He starts to talk about how the hardware is beautiful, blah, blah, blah. But beyond all the hype and mania, because, you know, only Apple fanboys would ever be excited about an Apple product, let's get one thing clear. The iPhone isn't the future. It isn't a revolutionary mobile device ushering in a new era. Wow, you're so wrong. It hurts. At its heart, this fancy looking new product is very old fashioned. I think my ad blocker is screwing with this thing, but the reason it tries to keep Apple and AT&T in control instead of you. Okay, so their first point here is that the iPhone was bad because it was exclusive with AT&T at first. That's just dumb. I mean, yeah, I don't like that it was exclusive with AT&T because it meant that it was stuck in the States at first, but I also don't see it as a huge problem because AT&T was a huge carrier. I mean, do you really have that much loyalty to a certain carrier over another one? He talks about the money, how expensive it is. Apparently it's gonna cost you more than $2,000 over the next 2 years. You gotta pay for the initial jump in hardware. Look at the first iPhone, look at the Galaxy Fold. Anytime there's kind of like a new thing, you usually have to pay a lot of money for it, and that's something that customers understood. And the iPhone 3G fixed that the next year by making it cheaper. You can't choose networks. Okay, you already said this more or less. Where's my third-party software? So this would come through a bit later, so it didn't have it right out of the gate. The App Store wasn't a thing, so that's fair, kind of. And I think if I was a tech YouTuber back in 2007, I probably wouldn't have recommended buying the iPhone simply because it was so new and it wasn't really established yet. So this is a fairly fair reason. You can only download media to your iPhone while plugged into a computer. That's kind of a nitpick, especially because most devices were super duper limited, even over Wi-Fi or cellular network. Apple did not respond to requests for a comment yesterday. Would you respond to this guy? I don't think I would. Wow, those were some darn bad takes. If only these people had some kind of online learning platform where they could have gotten smarter and perhaps understood the true potential of the iPhone. If only there had been a website where millions could come together to take the next step in their creative journey. A site that offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, even journalism, which these people probably could have used, and so much more. Well, lucky for you, you don't have to make the same mistakes as these reviewers because such a website exists. Amazing. Skillshare is a fantastic site that offers lessons on anything you're interested in. And with the world being put basically on hold, I'd say that's something pretty useful right now. I myself am absolutely able to use Skillshare, learning necessary skills for my job, like upping my B-roll and photography game, and my editing game for that matter, with advanced video editing with Adobe Premiere and any video editor you can possibly think of. For less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, you can fend off your quarantine madness and actually learn something. If you're bored, you might as well put your time to good use. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the top link in the description will get 2 free premium months of Skillshare, absolutely free, so that you can finally fuel your creativity. Huge thanks to Skillshare for making this video possible, and please give Skillshare a shot. It's really a very awesome site. There's so much on there. It's insane. And it also helps out the channel quite a bit if you click that link and sign up for the trial at least. Give it a shot. You might really like it. But anyways, thanks again to Skillshare, and I think it's good a time as any to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video funny or interesting or something, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Again, this is a different type of video for me, just felt like trying it out. So if you guys want to see more of these casual at my desk type videos like this, let me know by hitting that like button. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech, and again, join the Discord if you want. Thanks again for watching. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.